A night in cowboy boots. Stranded at a truck stop alone and in trouble, pregnant Bethany Carter desperately needs a ride to Buffalo Creek. Then along comes Chandler Chatham, a cowboy with a bad boy smile and a heart of gold. But when they get to Chatham House, Chandler's three maiden aunts assume he's the father. Chandler is honored to care for Bethany and her unborn child. Problem is, more time he spends with sweet Bethany, the more he wishes he truly were the father. And her husband. What's a rodeo cowboy to do but lasso the lady into his arms? Lonesome Cowboy Bill, he rides a rodeo, but it's too bad once you get on the horse, it's hard to get off. Those are still his real teeth at this point, I believe. I don't know who that is, man. This looks like this is St. Anthony himself, but... sometimes the tooth hurts. Trapped in the Trap House, chapters 1 through 33, part 4. Dead Prez. Everybody dies. Look at this photograph. Every time I do it makes me laugh. Whoa, are you making a 9/11 joke? Yeah. It's probably the least offensive 9/11 joke I've made. But that's not the point. I guess it is the point, though. So my father was destined for the NBA, or at least that's what he thought. That's, you know. And again, this is the Happy Black History Month. This is what we put a lot of black and brown athletes through. You know, this elusive carrot on the stick. You know, anyone who's in impoverished, who has like a skill, you know, it's going to be co-opted by this machine. But a machine that only wants to churn out specific cogs, and that will deprive these, you know, that's what fucking... Listen, again, I know this is, again, shouldn't bring this up in Black History Month, but I love Infinite Jest. Read this 3 times. Why? Infinite Jest is just about generations of the disease. David Foster Wallace was born to drug addicts. He was clearly a drug addict himself. Oh no, I was going in and out of rehabs to just do the research. No. This brother writes because he knows what happened. Why do you think he hung himself? Yeah, I mean, maybe he had sobered up, but he was so dependent on antidepressants to be that string to hold him together that once that was taken away, shit. And I read The Pale King, what he had left of it. It wasn't that good. He'd peaked. He peaked at Infinite Jest, you know, and he kind of knew it. So he was always chasing, you know, that peak. That's what we do. We don't realize that, similar to the 5-act structure of a play, that's how the human life is. You know, it's not always it can't just be rising action. That's insanity. There has to be a fall. Embrace the fall. One can argue that we are Sisyphus and we're constantly falling. You know, that's the struggle. And that's what my father went through. That's what he thought he could become. I wish I had time for all the details of all the stories he told me. I wish I could see them the way I can see what I went through. But I know that because I see what I went through, I know what he went through. Because I'm the other side of his face. I'm the other side of that coin, you know. I'm his son. But I'm also his brother. And I'm his keeper. And his baseball team, the one where he won the national champion, the state chair, I think They placed pretty well, actually, in nationals. I don't know exactly, but they won the state champions. And again, this is similar to sort of the mind games he would later play, and this was in 79. His coach was like, the beginning of the season. The season before, they weren't great. And I don't remember exactly how many games. He said, like, you guys will be lucky to make it 9 and 10, for the record. So he tells me when they were on the bus ride from the last regular season game, they went undefeated. They were like 19-0. So what they did, though, everyone in the team, and I'm sure my father was one of the ringleaders, they just start chanting, 9 and 10, 9 and 10, 9 and 10. They're fucking running laps for like 2 hours afterwards, but they all knew that was part of the game, He did that. His basketball career, though, took a little bit of a, he got a foot injury his last year, and he's Catholic, and he was crushing it. Like, scouts were watching him. People were building up his myth. They were, tonight's not your night. What do you mean it's not my night? I could have taken Floyd apart. You were my brother. You were supposed to look out for me. I could have been a contender. But now what am I? A bum. One-way ticket to Palookaville. But there is no shame in being in Palookaville. Everywhere is fucking Palookaville. Alright, trust me. There's more spirit and love and beauty, even on these barren streets of East Hartford, than I ever saw in West Hartford Center, than I ever saw at Trinity, than I ever saw at New Canaan. I've met more brilliant men drugged out in the gutter talking nonsense than I ever had talked to be a part of professors. They had no idea. They were parroting it. They were, what's that Luke Bronan song? Visions of the Aged, we were talking about the beatniks, but they knew nothing about the human experience. They only parodied it. My father is the greatest man who ever lived because he lived it. He lived the highs and he lived the lows. Right? Put your head in space right there. This is a man thinking, and he had collected World Series Classic 1969 champs, softball tickets from 16, like all these things. But you know what? I haven't found a single picture of him holding a basketball. Why? Because he didn't want to see those pictures, because those were pictures that reminded him of all that he had lost. So he would burn them, he would throw them away, he would rip them up. He didn't go to the ceremony when he was put into the Hall of Fame. He wanted to, but he couldn't. Even me, when I somehow, one year when I was a wrestler, I did very well. Somehow I did very well. Dumb luck. Because the next year, trust me, I did terribly. Because I was just, but I remember vividly when it was an award ceremony, okay, and I won most improved. I was all conference. I was all academic. I was on all the, when I tell you I could have been a Rhodes Scholar, bro, I could have been a Rhodes Scholar. Like, I was good. Like, I was pretty good. Like, I went through the motions. My father was never good at showing up to my games. I was in a freshman football team. Our record was, I think, 0-10. We did not win a single game. We didn't get a touchdown until our 7th game. And I tell you what, we celebrated in that bus at the end as if we won the Super Bowl. All right? Yeah, fuck you, yeah, baka! 2 hours elapsed afterwards. But trust me, that was a punishment that we deserved. So I know. My father, he tried. He was still with that girl Tisha at the time. We went to a game with her one time. I think just right before she had went off to the war. Broke his heart, but fuck it. He broke his own heart by building up expectations that probably were not true. And by putting all of his eggs in the basket as if a woman was going to save his life, as if little Annie LeBlanc, little Sandy the White. No, brother. He didn't want to look in that mirror and see that he was the only one who could save himself, because he knew he couldn't do that. Maybe if he raised the spitting image, Maybe that could help, but I don't know. So they're all thinking he's going to get into the NBA. He gets a foot injury. Pretty bad one. His final year. Everything goes out of whack, you know. And now that I think about it, he probably got into opioid abuse then. Pain pills for it. No question. This exact moment, the disease entered him. Right at the time. Right in the late fucking 70s when fucking disco was king. But the king was dead. Both Martin, both Elvis, both Jesus. Long live the king. But they ended up getting him, they pulled some strings, so they were going to extend his high school career. Keep this in mind. They were going to be like, okay, well, so you're going to pull out right now if he's Catholic. You're not going to graduate here. But we're going to get you, you're going to take some time, get your foot recovered. We're going to get you into Worcester Academy, Worcester Academy. That's where he lived, across from where Abbie Hoffman lived. William Hoffman. And he did very well. But again, they were feeding him tests. He used to tell me, he was like, oh yeah, well, I have to do a credit where we just made fucking a magazine. I'm like, you made a fucking magazine? This is supposed to be like a boarding school. You doing fucking making magazines? He's like, yeah. So yeah, again, and you see this. Remember the King of the Hill episode? I'm glad that I didn't get exploded. This shit happens all the time, black or white. Fucking, there's a bunch of goddamn meatheads, and they're forced into athletic sports where throw my butt. Like, we do this to them. We create the boneyard. Eventually they caught, though. I think the whatever proctors or whatnot figured out. They're like, well, Will Moffat didn't show up for his math exam, or like whatever. He had showed up or something, and apparently he took the math exam, and it was like he got like 0.0. He was like, oh, well, clearly you fucking don't know what you're doing. So they wanted to. Near the end, they were like, we're gonna fuck you over, man. Fuck you. And my dad needed that. He needed that 1 year. If he got that 1 year, if he got that graduate, he'd gotten a bit of a skip and a step back, and he was gonna go to Springfield and play. And not as 100, but good enough where he could have been a bench warmer for the NBA for a little bit. If he kept his, oh man, I remember he was telling me stories about the partying with these hockey players one time. It's like, tell me this. I'm like, oh, of course, you're fucking hockey players. Oh my god, those fuckers are fucking hit somebody. Fucking talk about the goon squad. But yeah, so they want to take that away from him. They want to be like, okay, we know. So so they have this meeting, and my father, who had been, he had a lot of Salieri's, a lot of benefactors who were trying to help him, but this was he didn't get nobody. They were just gonna write him off. So he had to go into this room, and by himself, with just words, pull a rabbit out of the hat and make some magic happen. He does. The way he tells it, and this is the beginning of Infinite Jest. He's there, surrounded by this table of, yeah, oh, from the low class, you thought you could, but nah, guess what, motherfuckers? He's and he's got the documents too. He's like, I didn't deserve this grade here. I didn't do any of this work. This teacher gave me this grade. This teacher fed me this grade. This person fed me this grade. So here's the deal. I'm aware that this whole system is rigged, and that you manipulated me as a student. You deprived me of the chance to get my real education to do this. So either you're going to just overlook this, maybe, change that F to a D so I can pass, or I don't know, maybe I'm going to have to tell people about the things that I know. Guess who graduated from Worcester Academy? But I don't know. There's lots of... I know what you're thinking. I swear to God I'm not singing fucking Nickelback's Photograph at the end of this.